You're listening to a special bonus episode of the Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
NHL fans! Welcome to my Seattle Kraken expansion draft special here on the Jacob Valk Show. I am the Jacob Valk, and you're not. I'm going to go team by team breaking down who the Kraken took. I'll tell you who I would have taken if the selection was different. For some teams it was, for some teams it wasn't. I'll tell you the underlying moves that were made with some of these picks. There's a lot to get into. Let's not waste any time. From the Anaheim Ducks, the Kraken took Hayden Fleury, a defenseman who once upon a time had a ton of potential. He was the 7th overall pick in 2014. Unfortunately for him, he's never put it all together. His best year was 1920, when he had 14 points in 45 games. That was as a member of the Carolina Hurricanes. Last year with the Hurricanes and Ducks, Fleury had 4 points in 47 games. He was a minus 12. It doesn't seem like he's gonna turn into anything. I understand the Kraken wanting to take a chance on a younger player. Maybe, just maybe, they can fix him. But I would have taken Kevin Shattenkirk. I understand that it's a little expensive, but I think Shattenkirk is worth it. I promise you that if the Kraken had followed my blueprint, they would have been fine for cap room. So, you don't need to worry about that. I'd be surprised if Fleury turned into anything with the Kraken. From the Coyotes, the Kraken took Tyler Pitlick. However, he won't play a single game for the Kraken, as he was traded to the Flames in exchange for a 4th rounder in 2022. There weren't any great options available from the Coyotes. The guy who I would have taken would have been Christian Fischer. But even then, he's not great. Pitlick is a solid third-line center. He had 11 points in 38 games last year for the Coyotes. He's not a bad player, but if you weren't in love with Pitlick, if you weren't in love with Fisher, yeah, get an extra pick. I don't mind that. From the Bruins, the Kraken took Jeremy Lauzon, a guy who has struggled to carve out a consistent role on the Bruins blue line. He set a career high in games played last year with 41, career high in points with 8, career high in plus minus with 8. He has potential. He's a good player. I think he can turn into something in the NHL. I had them taking Nick Ritchie, but Lauzon is fine. I can't complain about that. The Kraken wanted a solid mix of veteran and young defensemen. Lauzon's a solid young player. I think he could turn into something with the Kraken. From the Sabres, the Kraken took William Borgen, another young defenseman, a guy who's played 14 games in the NHL, 10 games last year, 4 games in 18-19. He hasn't scored a single point. He's a career -9. He was -5 his rookie year, -4 last year. I know what you're thinking. Oh, Jacob, it's the Sabres. There wouldn't be anyone good for the Kraken to take. That's not true. Colin Miller was available. Now, Colin Miller isn't Bobby Orr. I get that. But he was an original Golden Knight. He knows what it's like to be a member of a new NHL team. His experience there would be invaluable. In fact, that year for the Golden Knights, 17-18, was his best year ever. Career high in games played, career high in goals, career high in assists. Colin Miller would have been the correct pick. He would have been a guy who I would have carved out room for. I don't think William Borgen is going to do anything for the Kraken. From the Flames, the Kraken took their presumptive captain, Mark Giordano. A really, really good defenseman. Once upon a time, this guy was one of the best defensemen in the NHL. Just 3 years ago, he won the Norris Trophy. He had 74 points. He was a +39. He can get physical if he needs to. He's a really, really good player. Yes, he's on a big contract. $6.75 million for next year. But he's going to give an invaluable veteran presence. Like I said, he's their presumptive captain. This is who I would have picked from the Flames if I was Ron Francis. From the Hurricanes, the Kraken took Morgan Geekie. This is a good pick. I don't mind it. Geekie's a young player with some potential. He turned 23 on Tuesday. He had 9 points in 36 games last year. I had the Kraken taking Nino Niederreiter, the former Islander great. But if you wanted to save the money, take Geekie. He's got some solid potential. He could turn into a top 6 center down the line. This move made sense for the Kraken. Even though it's not what I would have done, I can get behind it. From the Blackhawks, the Kraken took John Quenneville. A young player, 25 years old, hasn't put it all together in the NHL. I don't think he ever will. Can he turn into a fourth liner for the Kraken? Anything's possible. But much like Hayden Fleury, I wouldn't be surprised if you never saw him suit up for the Kraken. I had the Kraken taking Malcolm Subban. Think about this goalie core. Carey Price, Chris Driedger, Malcolm Subban. Subban also an original Golden Knight. You can't tell me that Quenneville is a better fit than Subban. From the Avalanche, the Kraken got it right. They took Jonas Donskoy. This is who I would have taken. Donskoy is a perennial 30-point getter in this league. Last year he had 31 points in 51 games for the Avalanche. In the playoffs, he had 5 points in 10 games. He could end up being a first liner for the Kraken. I mean, that's a little scary, don't get me wrong. But Donskoy will put up a lot of points for the Kraken. That was a great pick by Ron Francis. From the Blue Jackets, the Kraken took Gavin Bayreuther. This guy is a 7th defenseman. He's not young. He's 27. That's not considered young in the NHL. That's like the prime of your career. Last year in 9 games for the Blue Jackets, he had a point. That's it. Gavin Bayreuther is a better pick than Kevin Stenlund? That's absurd. Bad job by the Kraken. The Blue Jackets had to be really happy that the only guy who they lost was a depth defenseman. From the Stars, the Kraken took Jamie Oleksiak. He was a pending UFA. Now he's not going to hit free agency. He signed a 5-year deal with the Kraken worth $23 million. That's $4.6 million a year. So the Kraken ended up pairing Adam Larson with Oleksiak. And I spoke about Larson yesterday, so I don't mind bringing this up. You know, the Kraken spent a lot of money on 2 defensemen who are in the primes of their careers. And they're good players. Oleksiak is a good player. He had 14 points in 56 games last year for the Stars. When the Stars went on their Stanley Cup run, he had 9 points in 27 games. He's a really good player. This may be a little bit of an overpay, just like Larson was. But you're a new team. I can't get on you too much for overpaying for guys. I mean, I'll say this. There may be a little bit of a new team tax. Hey, if you want us, you're going to have to overpay for us. We don't know anything about your team. We don't know anything about the city. We don't know anything about the fans. If you want us to join this new experiment, yeah, you've got to pony up the dough. To get Oleksiak is a good move for the Kraken. It's better than my pick, Blake Como, former Islander. I don't mind what Ron Francis did here at all. From the Red Wings, the Kraken took Dennis Cholowski, another really young defenseman. He's 23 years old. In his rookie year, 18-19, it looked like he was going to be a really good player. He had 16 points in 52 games. Then he just got worse and worse. Last year, he had just 3 points in 16 games. This is a potential pick. I don't mind taking a chance on Cholowski. It's possible that Dave Hackstall can get the best out of him. I'm not giving up on Cholowski, I'll say that. I had the Kraken taking Troy Stecher. Stetcher's a little more proven. He's a really good player. But Cholowski can turn into a really good player, so I can't get on what the Kraken did here. I'm actually going to skip over the Oilers and Panthers because I talked about them earlier in the week. So that brings us to the Los Angeles Kings, where the Kraken took Curtis McDermott, a physical defenseman, the kind of guy who you insert for toughness and nothing else. I don't mind taking a goon. Every team needs a goon. I had the Kraken taking a goon a little later. But if you want to take McDermott, go for it. From the Kings, I had them taking Andreas Athanasiou. I'm pretty sure that I butchered that name, but you know who I mean, the former Red Wing. But if you want to take a goon, go for it. I don't mind it at all. From the Wild, the Kraken hit the nail right on the head. This is who I would have taken, Carson Soucy. A really, really good two-way defenseman. Had 17 points in 50 games last year for the Wild. He was a plus 22. He's a really good player, and he's in the prime of his career. He's going to turn 27 on Tuesday. Fantastic job by the Kraken. From the Canadiens, the Kraken stupidly passed on Carey Price for Cale Fleury. Not Theo Fleury, Cale Fleury. Someone who didn't play at all last year. Someone who in 41 games for the Canadiens in 1920 only had one goal. He's Hayden Fleury's brother. What, you want him to keep the brothers together? Is that what this was? Cale Fleury's not going to turn into anything. He's young. I get that, but from what I saw of him a couple of years ago, he's not that good. His brother's better than him, and that's saying something because Hayden Fleury's not a world beater. You have the opportunity to take Carey Price, and you pass on him. Terrible job by Ron Francis here. My God, did the Habs dodge a bullet. I don't know how they dodged that. From the Predators, the Kraken got it right. They took Cal Yarncroc. Yarncroc is a really good third liner. You can put him on the second line and he'll hold his own. Last year he had 28 points in 49 games. Very good defensively. Doesn't take a lot of penalties. Not a great face-off taker, but that's okay. You can work around that. This is who I would have taken from the Predators if I was Ron Francis. Another guy who I would have taken is Nathan Bastian from the Devils. And that's who Francis ended up taking. So, a good job by him there. Bastian is young, he's 23, and he has talent. Scored 10 points in 41 games last year. Seems like he can turn into a solid third liner. There weren't any fantastic options from the Devils. So take a chance on a guy like Bastian, who's young, who's cost-controlled. $825,000 for the next 2 years is all he'll count against the cap. This is the right pick by the Kraken. The Kraken made another right pick in taking Jordan Eberle. I talked about it from an Islanders perspective yesterday. I'll talk about it from a Kraken perspective now. They had 3 choices that they could have made from the Islanders that would have been okay. Josh Bailey, Kiefer Bellows, or Jordan Eberle. They took Eberle. That's fine. Very good player, very good playoff performer. He'll probably be a first liner for the Kraken. That's what he was for the Islanders. He just won't have Anders Lee and Matthew Barzal helping him out. Then again, Dave Hackstall plays a more up-tempo style than Barry Trotz does, so Eberle's point total will probably go up just because of that. So I like this pick for the Kraken. I had them taking Kiefer Bellows in my mock draft. That may have been wishful thinking on my part, because I really didn't want to lose Eberle. I wish him nothing but the best in Seattle. Like I said yesterday, the Islanders better go out there and seriously replace Eberle. I don't want to hear that Oliver Wahlstrom and Kiefer Bellows are going to step up and that's going to suffice. No. Not with this team that's made it to the Stanley Cup semifinals back-to-back years. Re-sign Kyle Palmieri, trade for Vladimir Tarasenko, bring in Gabriel Landeskog, bring in Taylor Hall, actually replace Jordan Eberle. From the Rangers, the Kraken took who I would have taken. Colin Blackwell. A guy who's gotten better every year he's been in the NHL. Last year for the Rangers, he set a career high in games played, career high in goals, career high in assists. He's in the prime of his career. He's 28 years old. He's a good player. He's a solid third liner. Blackwell played really well for the Rangers last year. He stood out a lot. I think he'll do the same thing for the Kraken. This was the right pick. From the Senators, the Kraken took their third-string goalie, Joey Dackard. A guy who has shown no ability whatsoever in the NHL. He is a quadruple A goalie. But the Kraken needed to take 3 goalies, so Dackard's their third stringer. Sure. There were better options out there, but I can't get too upset about it. I would have preferred Chris Tierney. You can't tell me that Dackard's a better option than Tierney, but you needed a third-string goalie. Dackard's young, he's 24. It's possible he can turn his career around, I guess, but it's very unlikely. I don't mind him as a third-string goalie, though. The Kraken could have done better, but I can't bang tables over it. From the Flyers, the Kraken took a young forward, Carson Twarynski, a guy who only got into 7 games last year, didn't put up a single point, he was a -3, is not a good defensive hockey player, hasn't shown much offense in the NHL. I get that he's young, he's 23. I had the Kraken taking Shane Gostisbehere. Obviously, the Coyotes are glad that the Kraken didn't do that, but I'll get into that tomorrow. Twarynski's just going to be an extra forward for the Kraken. That's all he's cut out to be in the NHL. I'm very low on him. Does he have potential? I guess. But I have no faith in his ability to put it all together. From the Penguins, the Kraken took Brandon Tanev. I'm sure that the Penguins are really happy about that. Tanev is due to count $3.5 million against the cap for the next 4 years. The Penguins are in cap hell. At this very moment, so not counting Tanev, the Penguins have just under $7.5 million in cap room. If they want to make any moves at the trade deadline next year, they're going to need to get really creative. I mean, this is a boon for the Penguins. There's no other way to look at it. They're one of the winners of this expansion draft. Tanev has been a major disappointment for the Penguins. He's a good defensive forward. He's not bad offensively, put up 16 points in 32 games. But he's just massively overpaid. He's a good player. He's just not worth $3.5 million a year for the next 4 years. Brian Burke and Ron Hextall better send Ron Francis a Christmas card in about 5 months. And just for whatever it's worth, I had the Kraken taking Zach Aston Reese. From the Sharks, the Kraken took Alexander True, a young forward with some potential. He turned 24 on Saturday, had a point in 7 games last year, had 4 points in 12 games the year before. Sure, if you want to take a chance on True, I'm okay with that. I had the Kraken taking Ryan Donato, but if you want to take True, I have no problem with that at all. From the Blues, the Kraken took, who I mocked to them, Vince Dunn, a really good young defenseman. He had 20 points in 43 games last year. When the Blues won the Stanley Cup, Dunn was really good in the playoffs, had 8 points in 20 games. I'll say this. Think about this Kraken blue line for a minute. Lauzon, Giordano, Oleksiak, Larson, McDermott, Soucy, and Dunn. That is a really good D-man core. That has really good depth. That's a very good job by Ron Francis. Francis didn't position his team as an offensive juggernaut. He wants them to play more of a defensive style. I'm not sure how much Dave Haxtell's going to like that. That's not his style of hockey, but it can work. It gets the Islanders into the playoffs. From the Lightning, the Kraken took Yanni Gourde. It came out right after that pick was made that Gourde had shoulder surgery this week. He won't play on opening night. He will return in November. So just to be clear, you'll take an injured Yanni Gourde, but you won't take a maybe not injured Carey Price. Unreal. Gourde is a really good player. You saw him in the playoffs last year. You saw him in the bubble. Plays his role perfectly. Had 36 points in 56 games last year. Had 7 points in 23 playoff games last year. He's a really good player. A first line of Jonas Donskoy, Yanni Gourde, and Jordan Eberle sounds pretty good to me. Just for whatever it's worth, I had the Kraken taking Pat Maroon, but Gourde is a much better player. Or maybe this guy will be on the first line. From the Maple Leafs, the Kraken took Jared McCann. So the guy who the Maple Leafs just traded for will never play a game for him. Why did I give the Maple Leafs the benefit of the doubt that the Kraken wouldn't take McCann? I don't get this. Why would you give up assets for a guy and have no way to get them back? Why wouldn't you just make it like a conditional 5th or something, instead of a 7th and a prospect that may or may not turn into anything? Bad job by the Maple Leafs. McCann would have helped them a lot. Now he's not going to play for him. Good job by the Kraken. McCann plays the game the right way. Had 32 points in 43 games last year for the Penguins. Not a good playoff performer, but he can grow into that. He's still young. He's 25. I had the Kraken taking Travis Dermott, but McCann makes a ton of sense also. I can't get upset about that. From the Canucks, the Kraken took Cole Lind, a young right winger. He's 22, got into 7 games last year, didn't put up a point, was a -4. All 7 of his games came after the Canucks' major COVID outbreak. So it's hard to get a read on Lind. If you really liked him in the 2017 draft, sure, take him. I don't mind Francis doing that. There were no great options on the Canucks. I had them taking Travis Hamonic, former Islander, who I never liked. So sure, take a chance on Cole Lind. I don't mind it. Also, they would have had to re-sign Hamonic. He's a pending UFA. Lind is still on his entry-level contract. From the Capitals, the Kraken found their backup goalie, Vitek Vanacek. In his rookie year, Vanacek was probably the best goalie that the Capitals had. He went 21-10-4 with a .908 save percentage and a 2.69 goals against. Didn't play a lot in the playoffs, only 13 minutes. But he's young, he's 25 years old. You want to pair him with Chris Driedger? You've got 2 solid, young-ish goalies there. That's a good setup for the Kraken. I would have taken Connor Sheary, but if the Kraken truly thought that Vitek Vanacek was the second best goalie available, I question that logic because Carey Price was available, but sure, I guess. You can't tell me the Price wouldn't have been better. This isn't a bad setup, but Price would have been better. I'll wrap this up now with the pick that Ron Francis made from the Winnipeg Jets. I nailed this pick. Mason Appleton. A really good young center. He's 25. He was born on my father's birthday. He's shown a lot of talent in a very short period of time. Last year for the Jets, he had 25 points in 56 games. He was a +11. Played well in the playoffs, too. Had 3 points in 8 games. Mason Appleton can turn into a really good top 6 forward for the Kraken. That wouldn't surprise me at all. All in all, I think the Kraken had a solid expansion draft. You're not going to agree with 100% of picks made in any kind of draft. The biggest issue to me is passing on Carey Price. For the Kraken's sake, I hope that Driedger and Vanacek work out. If you want to throw Joey Dackert in there, you can. But look, this has the makings of a good team, a really strong defense. They'll get solid goalie play. It wouldn't surprise me if they made the playoffs. That's the bare minimum of what would be considered acceptable. I mean, a lot of Kraken fans are going to be expecting them to go on a big cup run. You can't expect that, but you've got to expect the playoffs. And for the Kraken to make some noise when they get there. Regular episodes of the Jacob Valk Show come your way every weekday afternoon. Until next time, I am Jacob Valk saying that seeing Astros fans up close for the first time is like waking up in a Brazilian jail.